Is it looking okay?
Yep.
All right, so here we go. So welcome, good afternoon again, of course, and thank you, Erica, for the intro and everybody for being here. So as I said before, we are Zumo, a London-based startup aiming to help people transition into electric vehicles. Zumo, as it stands now, it's David, Jose, and Eric, who is here also joining us in the call. Between David and myself, we have around 40 years experience in the automotive and consumer services industry. We have been interested in electric vehicles, both of us, for a long, long time. In my case, designing them and starting companies around them. In David's case, as an early adopter of electric vehicles, obsessing in particular about driving them, including a trip he did with this Nissan Leaf to Scotland, which is about 1,000 miles, which is quite a feat. So just to start with Zumo, our mission is very simple. We want clean air in our cities, just as simple as that. We want our skies to be as clean as they are out there at the moment, even after we return to normality after this pandemic, whenever that happens. As we all know, transportation accounts for a huge part of the pollution in our cities, and we know that electric vehicles are a great way to reduce that pollution. So that's why we want to at least nudge or help people transition. Despite the fact that many people are interested in all these electric vehicles and many of them in fact are already driving them, there's still many myths, as Erica was saying before, and half-truths floating around. So we're here today to hopefully clear some of them up for you in the audience. So we're going to talk about issues like price and range and emissions, and hopefully convince you that the next time that you are shopping for a car, you seriously consider buying one that you can plug in. Whether at home or on the street. So let's start with myth number one, which is that electric vehicles are expensive. The reality, as you can see here, is that nowadays one can find many second-hand EVs that are well under 10,000 pounds. In fact, as you see, they are even below 6,000 pounds, which is not really such a, it's not Tesla levels when you think about it. Also, as the overall fleet of electric vehicles increases over the years, we will obviously see the number of these cheaper electric vehicles, their number increase significantly in websites like AutoTrader and so on. We also have to, when we talk about price, we also have to not forget that we have to think about the total running cost over a particular period, right? When you drive an electric vehicle, the reality is that there are substantial savings in the form of maintenance and taxes, and then of course energy, right? What it costs to actually fuel the vehicle. Thousands of pounds when you look over 3-4 year periods, which is quite significant. Add to that, of course, we have to think about the government incentives. Probably you heard this week that the government is actually now thinking about. You probably heard about the incentive being raised to around 6,000 pounds if you switch now to an electric vehicle in the UK. We'll see if that really comes to fruition, but it's fantastic news, and it definitely turns price as a less of an issue moving forward. The myth number two is that EVs can't really go too far. But the reality is that today, any new electric vehicle in the market basically has a range between 180 and 200 miles at a minimum. If you have an older vehicle, what you need is a little bit of planning. As I said, David before, going to Scotland is an example. But today there's quite a lot of large availability of fast charging, for example. And again, that's something that David uses regularly when he goes to visit his family up in the Midlands. And even if you have 70-80 miles range vehicle like a Nissan Leaf, doing 100-150 mile trip is not really such an issue, as long as you can stop along the way and for a rapid charge and a coffee. We also have to consider, of course, that how much do we drive, and the reality is that according to the RAC, the average UK driver basically does around 28 miles a day. That's for new cars, which obviously tend to be used much more. If you live in London, and like I do, average it's around 18 miles. And what that means basically is that if you have any modern electric vehicle, you can go with, at least you can go on for a week, maybe even 10 days before you need the vehicle to be charged. And we also, of course, have to consider that these electric vehicles are going to be used essentially like a phone, like a cell phone, right? So opportunity charging at the gym, charging at the petrol station, or charging at the supermarket will be something very, very common, and we can always keep it can always keep it top up, without really fear of draining the battery all the way to the bottom. Myth number three, in any case, is that there are not enough chargers. And the interesting thing is that chargers are all over the place. It's just one literally doesn't notice them until one becomes an EV owner and then downloads one of the apps that basically gives you the location of what they are, like in this map from SatMap, right? As of today, there are more than 31,000 connectors that is plugged in the UK, which I think compares pretty well with the 8,400 petrol stations that we have in the country. The interesting thing and the most notable, though, is not the 30,000 plugs. It's the fact that they have tripled over the last 5 years, which gives you a sense of the growth, the level of growth in the availability of public charging that has happened, and that is only going to increase moving forward. So there are not only a lot of them, but in fact, they're actually not that busy, which is one of these little secrets within the industry. And the industry numbers show that 90% of them are used basically only once a week. This is a couple of days around the neighborhood here in South London, and I can attest that most of these charging stations are empty most days. They might have some cars parked perhaps in front, but many of them are still available to use. And in particular, that's true during the night, when they really tend to be quite empty. So I think it's a matter of perception more than actual lack of infrastructure. Myth number four is that electric vehicles are slow, and that's not really it's not a reality. Probably many of you have seen these videos in YouTube that have been running around for a long time now of Teslas beating sports cars that they drag strip and so on. Now, Teslas, of course, are quite expensive, but even if you're not prepared to spend that much money, you just have to consider that EVs are actually quite fun to drive. In reality, for the day-to-day driver, what really matters is not top speed or 0 to 60 or 0 to 100. Is this 0 to 30 miles an hour acceleration is the one that really counts. And you can see in the graph that in that sense, electric vehicles are basically comparable with any other comparable petrol or diesel car. They're easy to keep up with traffic in the lights, off the lights, and you will never really feel unsafe driving them. And what you will really enjoy is the lack of vibration and noise, of course. So I will really encourage you and recommend you to drive and test drive one of them if you can, because it's actually quite a transformative experience. There's myth number 5 is this limited choice, and here I will sympathize with whoever thinks that this is true. You've been following this EV market for the last few years. You'll definitely be excused to think that there's only 4 or 5 models, which is what you see there on the screen. There's Zoes and Leafs and so on. That has been the reality until now. But I want you to see this slide because I think it's quite dramatic, the jump that is happening in the market right now. These are some of the vehicles available in 2020 in the UK, either now or over the next few months. And this is not counting all the very expensive ones, from Jaguar or Tesla or Audi. This is just all vehicles that new would be below the 40,000 pounds mark. And it's quite incredible the increase in the amount of vehicles coming online. Moving forward, as more and more manufacturers get on board, the offer is only going to increase, of course. It's a perfect example is the VW Group. And again, we heard this week that many of the European governments are also going to push manufacturers, going to increase incentives like the UK government, and that will only push manufacturers to increase their offer, in particular in France and Germany, which is where most of these vehicles are coming from. So I think that's in general really good news. The myth number 6 is that they're perhaps not as clean as we think. And just to start, I have to say that there was a study released early this year that basically, even in a country that basically proved that even in a country like Poland, which is the European country most reliant on coal for their energy supply, even in that country, an electric vehicle is still cleaner than any petrol equivalent. But the thing is that petrol and diesel emissions from vehicles have been going down over the years, right? As the cars get more modern and more clean, they have been going down significantly. But the reality is that they're always going to pollute. It's just a matter of physics and chemistry. There's nothing that we can do about it. And the good thing about electric vehicles is that they promise, and in some countries, like Norway right now, and pretty soon in the UK, there's a promise of a future in which mobility essentially is powered purely by zero emissions energy, which is fantastic. Again, this is only going to get better over the years, as more and more capacity, zero emission capacity is coming online in all over Europe and all over the world. So that's a really nice development over the last few years. That's incredible, and I think that again, as we move forward, it's something that's all oil powered vehicles, petrol or diesel, will never really be able to achieve or compare. And last but not least is what happens if you park on the street, right? And what happens if you live in a flat, a terrace, or a high-rise building? Is that really an issue? What happens in general if you don't have a driveway, right? As it turns out, that is my case. That's the main reason why I decided to start zumo. And you're not alone. You're one of those. It's at least in London, it's 42% of us. 42% of the car population, let's say, park on the street every single night, and that's 1.2 million cars. That's a hell of a lot of cars that currently have no solution for charging other than the public chargers that we showed you before. And here's what I really have to say: that yes, this myth is actually it's not really a myth. It is a little bit of a challenge, right? And I mean, it is a challenge, even though I just said that there are many public chargings and chargers, and that is true, and they're empty most of the time. The reality is that we just want to be doing something else, and spending time looking for a charging spot or waiting for a car to charge at a rapid station is not really the kind of activity that we are normally looking forward to. And in particular, if you picture yourself in a rainy day in November or December at night, it's not something that we normally want to be doing, right? So we think it is definitely a problem. It's a problem of, in particular, of convenience, and that's why we started zumo, basically, which is where we're trying to do this charging, what we call charging as a service. And our goal, we just want you to arrive home and tell your voice assistant, or of course, just tell us through your phone that your electric vehicle needs to be charged, and we'll take care of it overnight, with no hassle. This will be very easy, very convenient, and that's just because for us the future means that everyone, and not only the ones with a house and with a driveway, should be able to drive an electric vehicle. This is the current solution today. You've probably seen it. You might have a very expensive Volvo there on the right, and then a very small expensive home on the left, and people have to spend 10-15 pounds in this kind of like rubber strip to make it protected. Obviously, this is not a proper solution. The way we see it with zumo is that we'll basically charge while you sleep, and we're going to have a trial this summer in South London, where you will be able to order the service by an app. We'll have a little fleet of e-scooters that will come up, pick up the vehicle, charge it for you, and then deliver it to you in the morning at a time that is convenient for you. So that's where we are at the moment. And lastly, just to finish here, I have this very last small request or a call to action. I think that the lockdown has brought many changes and many challenges, and most of them have not been really good at all. But has also brought some positives, right? From the more quality time to more exercise, definitely in my case, to lack of traffic, and of course the beautiful clean skies that we have over our cities. We have all experienced this wonderful clean air, and this is London, Buckingham Palace just a few weekends ago, which was unbelievable, and Madrid, my hometown, with the mountains visible 50 miles away now that the smoke was over. And I think that when this is over, hopefully soon, many people, it's already starting to happen, unfortunately, but many people are jumping back in their cars, and that's understandable, thinking about the safety implications. But if you do, hopefully like you to remember that using electric vehicles is one of the best ways to keep the air as clean as you see here in the pictures. And that beyond the beauty of the images themselves is that we should also remember that in a place like London, pollution is responsible for about 9,000 deaths every year, which is quite staggering. So my ask to you is basically, it's like let's work together, and when we return back to normal again, hopefully soon, let's make sure that we work together to keep one of these unexpected benefits of the lockdown, which was the fantastic clean sky. And with that, I think I'm done. So thank you.